So who are some names to watch here possibly for Michigan, Zach? There's obviously were a lot of names that were mentioned around for Penn State that I think you can mention here for Michigan. I do think it's very interesting that a lot of people always said that Matt Campbell's like destination job was Michigan, and just less than a week ago, was it less than a week? Yeah, less than a week ago, he's going to Penn State. He just had his opening press conference on Monday, so. A lot of interesting stuff there. I don't think Michigan would be able to pull off like taking Matt Campbell away from Penn State, nor do I think Matt Campbell would want to really be involved in this because, like you said, this is something that's not going to be a great reflection on the program, and I do wonder how much that is going to impact the coaching search. So, when you had a chance to digest this, Zach, who were some of the names that you felt like were maybe realistic options for Michigan to look at?
So I'm gonna say one name. I know you have a bunch of names, but there's one name in particular that I think people will mock. I would mock at first, but the more I think about it, the more I actually think it might fit fairly perfectly. And that's Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly, I believe Grand Valley State it's a Michigan school, I believe. Um,
Yes. Yes, you're
yeah,
right.
so he's coached at Grand Valley State, won 2 Division II national championships there. He coached at Central Michigan for 3 years. He coached at Cincinnati and Notre Dame. So he's familiar with the Midwest. He was in on Bryce Underwood, which that's the biggest thing you have to realize. They want to keep him in Ann Arbor. And like Brian Kelly has not been good at a lot of things, but he's done a decent job of developing quarterbacks. So I'm not saying it's the perfect hire, but it does make a lot of sense for them. Like that would be the name. My guess is nobody's thinking about it because Brian Kelly just got fired from LSU. But I could see that being a decent landing spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Michigan, you need to go after somebody that you can bring in quick, right? Because the portal does open on January 2nd, and the portal is going to open 5 days after your head coach is hired. You want to try and get this out there as quick as, or get the hire done as quick as you possibly can, so that way he can talk to these players and not have them enter the portal. That's like one of the big things because I think Friday is the day that Penn State players could start technically entering into the portal. And obviously, like I said, January 2nd is the time when everybody can. But you want to get this hire done at the very least before that point, so that way you can hold on to guys like Andrew Marsh, Bryce Underwood. Like, what was one of the biggest talking points of this Michigan team all season long? How young they are, how much potential they have, how much talent they have that just needs to
Mhm.
be developed and move on. And that was one of the biggest criticisms of like me and other people of Sherrone Moore was, can he actually develop? Like, yes, he comes from Jim Harbaugh, but can he develop like Jim Harbaugh can? And I didn't see a whole lot of development of Bryce Underwood throughout the year. You're going to want to go out and get you a coach who can develop and who is going to be able to coach QBs. I don't think they're going to go after a defensive coordinator. I don't think they're going to go after a defensive guy. I could see maybe one or two defensive guys they might go after, but those guys would have to have really good relationships to be able to bring somebody on staff. Brian Kelly obviously has had really good quarterback coaches in his time, so he's definitely a name you need to think about. Jesse Minter is a defensive coordinator for the LA Chargers. He's a name you need to think about. However, I don't know if the university would go to another Jim Harbaugh assistant. I would think you'd want to kind of put the Jim Harbaugh stuff behind you a little bit,
Yep.
especially with how this hire of Sherrone Moore went, because you hang on to the Jim Harbaugh stuff, and I think it's just more of hanging on to all those things. James brings up Bryant Haynes. He was another name I thought of, but like I don't know if Bryant Haynes has the connections to bring in a really good quarterback coach for Bryce Underwood, right? I think that's one of the biggest things.
Can I also just mention why
Unless
would
it's Tino
Brian
Sinceri. Maybe he
why
brings in Tino Sinceri.
why would Brian Haynes go to Michigan right now when there's all this fire?
I don't think he would. I think that's a
Like
big thing. Yeah.
and so Brian Kelly to me makes sense because he just got fired. And he's looking for a job. But listen, this and the NCAA stuff, which I know it wasn't substantial, but it just there's this kind of there's got to be like some sort of stain right now on Michigan, right? Which I hate to say, but like if you're a high level coach that has a secure job, whether you're a coordinator or a head coach, why on earth would you go to Michigan as the head coach right now?
Bryce Underwood. That's pretty much it. They do have talent. They have Bryce Underwood, but I agree with you. I think the issues outweigh the benefits at this point. Philip and a couple other people in the chat brought it up that Mentor does have a show cause. So the way the show causes work are very interesting. If you really, really want to, you can still hire a coach who has a show cause. You just have to show cause for why they are your coach. Basically, you have to do a whole bunch of extra stuff. So, yes, I don't think Jesse Minter is going to happen. Number one, because of the DC thing, but also number two, because of the show cause stuff that you guys are bringing up. That's a good point. But they technically could. Like, it's not like he's like banned from college football. But typically, what you have to do to hire one of these coaches does typically kind of ban them. So, and then Jacob says, you said earlier that he was fired / investigation after the Ohio State game. I never heard of anything of that sort. Was that a misphrase? So or did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, we've heard smoke since the Ohio State game.
Yeah, they were rumors of like misconduct with Sherrone Moore and stuff like that. He was not fired. He was not fired until today, but it sounds like once the rumors came out, then they started looking into things a little bit more. At least that's what's like being reported behind the scenes type of stuff. I wouldn't. It's not like Pete Nakos and guys like that reporting it. It's kind of like, more lore guys reporting it, stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah. Excuse me. Sorry guys, I'm a little sick today, so working through that. Some other names. Kalen DeBoer was one that everybody's bringing up quite a bit. My issue with Kalen DeBoer, and really like there's a number of guys on this list like that. Kalen DeBoer, Mike Shanahan from Indiana, guys like that. I heard somebody say Nick Sirianni from the Eagles. He has Michigan connections. I believe he's from Toledo. So there's some stuff like that. But my issue with those are like all of those guys have timing issues because of the playoffs. I don't think Michigan's going to hire any of these coaches or assistant coaches from the playoffs because I don't think any of them are going to be able to do both their role for the current playoff team and be able to go be Michigan's head coach. Like we're seeing Brian Hartline do that right now for Ohio State and USF, and that's already very hard. And that's USF, a group of 5 team, right? USF is not Michigan. I don't think you're going to be able to split that and make that happen. There's a reason why Lane Kiffin wasn't trying to make that happen with Ole Miss and why his assistants weren't trying to make that happen with Ole Miss and LSU. It's too big of a job.
Yeah. Just to appease our buddy Sean, I did not kick our guests out. They just knew they had to leave before 7:00. He just said, I'm behind on the live, but just heard Zach mentioned he had guests over when he heard the news. How did they take getting kicked out? They were not kicked out, but I did put a time limit.
I just see Zach assembling some quesadillas in the kitchen. He's like, tell them they got to leave. Sherrone Moore just got fired. We're going to go podcast about it.
That's not how we roll. We do hospitality first, and then we pod. That's how we do it.
That makes sense.
That's how we do it.
Some other names that I thought of, honestly, I think this one could be really good if he wants to come to college, but it sounds like he doesn't want to come to college. So I don't know, but Brian Daboll from the Giants, formerly with the Bills. I mean, he worked with Josh Allen, man. Like he was one of the reasons that Josh Allen became who Josh Allen was. And who does Bryce Underwood get compared to a lot? Josh Allen. So
like there's smoke about Daboll as possibly the next offensive coordinator too for Ohio State. So like that's an intriguing storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Head coach for Michigan, offensive coordinator for Ohio State.
Yeah. I don't know. That would be interesting. You buying into the Brian Kelly? You buying into the Lincoln Riley stuff? His name was floated out there a lot for Florida.
No,
I don't think he's leaving USC.
He's not leaving USC unless he can get another like a Georgia or an Ohio State. Like he's not leave. Like USC is a year or two away. If he keeps building them, they're a year away from being like in the upper tier, I think. So like, why would you leave that for Michigan? Which again, Michigan has they're not obliterated, right? I don't want to oversell
No,
it.
but it's just some drama going on that you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to be attached to.
They Michigan has been the epicenter of college football drama for now the past 3 years.
And at a certain point, you just want to get rid of that, right? If you're
Yeah.
Michigan, you want to bring in somebody who is buttoned up, going to get rid of that, and just doesn't mess with it anymore.
Yeah.
And one of the people that would be able to do that, and I thought about his name, I didn't write it down, but I thought about his name was Mike Tomlin. Philip brought up if Mike
Yeah.
Tomlin leaves the Steelers this year, but the only problem with that is like Mike Tomlin's not going to leave the Steelers early to go to
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
So that's another timing issue. That's one of the biggest issues with this is the timing issue. You have to bring somebody in and probably the next like probably before Christmas. You have to bring somebody in before
Yeah.
Christmas. Now maybe they have somebody lined up already,
Yeah.
but I I don't really see. I think two guys names that honestly are pretty likely, and one of them's a Big Ten head coach, and I don't think the fan base would want to lose him, but he's always been kind of enthralled by Michigan. The two guys would be Jedd Fisch from Washington, and then the number two would be Kenny Dillingham from Arizona
Mm.
State. Look, I know he's at his alma mater right now, but he just lost Sam Levitt. The guy has history of turning Sam Levitt into somebody, turning Bo Nix into somebody. Like, I know it's not Brian Daboll with Josh Allen type of stuff, but
Yeah.
if I'm Michigan, I'm going after somebody who is got a really good reputation, like a Kenny Dillingham, and who has developed quarterbacks.
Yeah. And Dillingham, like the thing is, the Big 12 is ultimately a dying conference. They are not going to survive. And so Arizona State has really done well the past 2 years, but to jump ship and I think maybe this is a thought about what type of head coach are we looking for Michigan. I think there's a few different categories. One who is looking for another job because either A, they got fired, or B, their seat is hot. Which is why I think Kalen DeBoer could be credible, because I don't think Bama fans are too excited about him right now. But again, there's a timing issue. But like it's either that or it's a coach that's looking for a jump to a blue blood program.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a coach that has a secure job. It's not going to be a coach or that like a secure job at like a top 10, top 15 program. It's not going to be that. It's going to be either a fired coach who is still seen as a good coach, or a coach that is having struggles with their fan base, or it's going to be a lower level conference coach that's looking to jump up.
Mm-hmm. Dave coming in with the super chat. Thanks for the $5, Dave. Appreciate it. Do you think Minnesota should worry about PJ? He did coach at Western Michigan. Probably not. I mean, PJ's name is always out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, PJ is definitely, the type of guy that would be buttoned up and, have some of that kind of stuff that you would want to kind of recover this stuff. But I don't think he has a track record with quarterbacks that you would want, right? I mean, it's not that he's been bad with quarterbacks, but he's not necessarily like a quarterback guru or anything like that.
Yeah.